What did Tetsuya Nomura decide to do when he was asked to remake Final Fantasy VII, which is considered a masterpiece? He decided not to do it. He instead made a Final Fantasy VII remake game that completely changes the story. Why? Because when you're asked to remake a masterpiece, it usually doesn't go that well. What's up, guys? I'm Digi Dustin, and today we're going to be exploring our war game as well as the new Digimon 2020 Adventure anime that, for the first 3 episodes, is a sort of reboot of our war game. So, to start things off, let's examine some of the reasons why our war game is such a good film, why it really hits home with a lot of people. So every scene in it is extremely intentional. Every character that they introduce has some purpose in it. Joe is being affected by what's going on. Sora has a sort of side arc going on with her fight with Tai. Mimi's not shown because she's in America and she isn't affected by things. And the film itself has a lot of things that make it very special. So, first of all, it ends with Omnimon appearing and saving the day. And that is a pinnacle of 54 episodes, 55 if you include the pilot. It is a reward to the viewers to really show how far we've come, to really give us a victory at the end of everything. But that's far from the only reason. Diaboromon is a terrifying villain, but he's far from the only problems we see going on in our war game. So the director really wanted to put forth that the main enemy for the protagonist during this movie, this film, was actually human inefficiency. As soon as the phone lines go down, communication becomes very hard, and it's hard for Tai and Izzy to get a hold of anybody. And that's why we only see Tai, Izzy, Matt, and TK facing off against Diaboromon, which is somewhat problematic. The director even said that if all of the Digi-Destin came together in this film, that they would have been able to take care of him without much of an issue. And that's not all, of course. We also have something I really enjoyed, which is that it can be read as our war game, but it can also be read as children's war game. And we very much see this nonchalantness about it. Like, the stakes are extremely high. There's a lot going on. Everyone could die, but at the same time, it feels very fun and comedic almost. Like, every time something goes wrong, Tai gives up. And then he comes right back to it when Izzy reminds him of something that could help save the day. And this is very important because these are children taking care of a nuclear threat. And so we have the stakes. We have this pinnacle of reward with all of the baggage leading up to this. We have ourselves introduced into the series. What do I mean? We have all of these kids from all over the place, flooding them with emails, which ironically slows Wargreymon and Metal Garurumon down so they can't fight effectively. These children, though, when they're watching the evolution scenes, when they're watching what's going on, they're watching what we've been watching. They watched Agumon and Gabumon warp Digivolve up to Wargreymon and Metal Garurumon the same way we have. It wasn't some special new method. They see the background and everything, which I'm pretty sure it doesn't look like that in the show. They never show what it looks like from Tai or Matt's perspective. And so these children, which are representative of us, they flood them with emails, slowing them down, but it also shows all of these emails surround Wargreymon and Metal Garurumon when Matt and Tai go into the screen, and I really think that it was alluding to these emails of all of these children's hopes and desires and dreams and wishing for their victory as symbolic of us also wishing for this miracle and it being answered with Omnimon. So we have a highly efficient movie where every scene means something, where it takes the past 55 works and sums them up, where it answers the viewer's requests, and where the bad guy isn't the worst thing that we're seeing. Now, when we get into the Adventure 2020 pilot, the first 3 episodes, it could have been an amazing remake. Remakes are hard to do well, especially with masterpieces, but because it's had so long, it has seen a lot of different animation techniques. It had a lot of time to learn different methods of being cool, of being funny. There's always a lot to learn as time passes. But while a lot of old Digimon fans like it, it falls short on a lot of categories. For one, the OST, the background music going on throughout it, is generally not great. While I think the Mega version of the new Big Bad is really scary and his eyes are flailing all over the place, the music doesn't necessarily make me feel scared of him. It's just, it's definitely sombering music. It's definitely trying to unnerve the viewer, but at every instance, it feels like the music they're using is appropriate, but not necessarily impactful enough to really put us in the scene. And you might be thinking that the OST isn't something to complain about, but believe me when I say that music can make or break a scene. It can turn a scene that is actually relatively bad into a very good scene. Now, it also doesn't have the baggage of being the pinnacle of 55 episodes, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. We've seen with Summer Wars, which is essentially a recreation of our war game without the Digimon IP or anything leading up to it, as a very successful film, a very good story. But they really seem like they want to only appeal to fans of the Digimon series. It really seems like they skipped a lot of steps to introduce these characters, but in a way of, well, you already know these characters, so we're not going to give you too much to work with. Like, you see Tai preparing for summer camp, but if you know the story, you know, oh, that's cool, he's about to go to summer camp. And then you see Izzy, and you see Izzy messing with his tech stuff, and you're like, oh, cool, I know that. And it very much seems to rely on nostalgia to introduce these characters to you, which is not a good method of doing so. Any person that watches this, whether they even know what Digimon is or not, should be able to enjoy it. Otherwise, the story isn't well told. It's just relying on fan service for old viewers. Now, what about the stakes? Is it the stakes of children? Is there sort of like a lightheartedness to the dread? No. The stakes all seem very intense all of the time, to the point where the only thing that I could say is comedic is the fact that these children seem to think that they can actually do something about it. Izzy might be able to, because he has friends all over the world, apparently. And yes, we know from the previous series that that's the case, but it's introduced kind of haphazardly in this one. And so Tai, the second he realizes that his family's in danger, just goes running off. And question of what can he do? Does he have a plan? We never really find out because he's teleported to the digital world. And so the entire time the stakes are extremely high. It doesn't have any baggage, but it wants to create its own by including all of this fan service. Not every scene feels like it's necessary. The music for the anime could definitely be better, and I'm not referring to the opening and ending. So what does it do well? Because I don't think that it's necessarily a bad anime, I just don't feel like it's lived up to everything it could have been so far. I really like the introduction of the crest, because in the Adventure 01 anime, the crests were handled very poorly. They were scattered for some reason, which led to a bunch of nearly filler episodes for the Digi Dustin to acquire them. In fact, it was so bad that the Digi Dustin found the tags within a convenience store, and then they found crests randomly while going through different subplots that weren't directly targeted towards them acquiring the crests. But in the 2020 anime, whenever they display a strong symbolic feeling of said crest, they are rewarded with it. So when Tai leaps over the guardrails to chase after the train that has his mom or sister or whatever he planned on doing, we're not really sure, and he ends up vanishing, it shows the crest of courage pulsating. When Izzy is shown doing all this research and technical jargon, he's rewarded with the crest of wisdom, and luckily it says crest of wisdom. I don't recall throughout the next few episodes if we see the other crests' names given, but if they just end up telling us later, that would be completely fine. Now, the animation is clearly better than the original series. Would I say it's better than our war game? No, not even a little bit, because our war game actually had a decent budget and had a really good director. But it's still really good. You see that there's a lot more budget being put into it than clearly reusing the same attack animation throughout 50 episodes. And the enemies look really good. Well, Algamon looks okay until his Mega. His Mega is terrifying, but until then, he's a good Digimon, which that's fine, I suppose. The series clearly wants to subvert our expectations, because after Algamon is dealt with and the nuclear missile is taken care of, the children do go to summer camp, and obviously all of the viewers are expecting the shift to happen at summer camp and everyone to wind up in the digital world. But it's not actually until they get back from summer camp that they end up in the digital world. And subversion of expectations is generally a good thing. Sometimes it's just handled poorly. However, I don't think that's necessarily the case here. And we have yet to really see how much the digital world is fleshed out by this point. So I don't want to talk about how they handle the anime going forward. Although I do think that just because they really failed to stick the landing with the pilot, it wouldn't be fair to say that that means that the future of this anime is going to be poorly handled, because it's realistically a genre shift. It's going from a suspense thriller to an action adventure. We're going from trying to quickly defeat an enemy and take care of a problem to exploring a whole new world. Now, so ultimately, I think that the pilot of the Adventure 2020 anime was extremely weak, especially because it was being compared to, because it has to be compared to, a masterpiece of sorts. However, going forward, I have a lot of hopes because the animation is really crisp and clean. The fighting scenes are really well done. It's, I believe, directed by the same person who directed some of the Dragon Ball Super movies. So, to be seen on that. Anyway, that was my quick analysis of the 2020 series so far, the first 3 episodes, and a quick look back at our war game. Until next time, guys, stay wholesome.